All right, guys, we're back again here at the Attic Cafe at downtown Tampa, 500 East Kennedy. We want to thank a few people like Richard McIntyre, McIntyreFirm.com, Chris Gramitzos, Podfest.us. If you're watching this podcast, this video podcast, and you want to learn more about how this stuff works, the Podfest conference in Orlando, 2019 March, you want to be there, learn, and what happens where the podcasters from around the world will be coming here in the Orlando area, and you will have the opportunity to connect as well as learn how this stuff works and be able to monetize it. So podfest.us. So I'm Anthony Kovic, and of course today's guest is Savannah Jarrell. She is a social media influencer. Thank you, Savannah.
Hi, thank you for having me.
A social media influencer, a lot of people don't understand there is a actual bracket of service called the influencer in the social media space. So how does an influencer actually develop and monetize itself as a business?
Yeah, so basically what I do is I run a blog called dollhousebeauty.com, and I work on beauty and fashion and travel. I'm kind of in the sphere of beauty, and we call it beauty and adventure. So I do beauty and travel mainly, and I've kind of made a way to combine the two. And basically being a social media influencer just means that we make content for, Instagram or YouTube or whatever. I personally work on Instagram and my blog, and we monetize our content by, it's different for everything because YouTube obviously has ads that run. My blog also has ads that run. We all get paid through Google AdSense for that. But for most of our income, it comes from sponsorships. So brands will reach out and they'll be like, hey, we have a brand new product. Try it for a week or two. Decide if you like it. If you do, let's sign a contract. Let's get you paid for it. And you can post about it. And so that's pretty much where most of the monetization actually comes from, because currently, YouTube is super down with ads, and it doesn't make as much money as if you have sponsorships.
So let's take us through some of the sponsorships. So when a sponsorship, give us one of the sponsorships that actually take you through, they take you to places where you end up going to their functions and events because you're an influencer for their product. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I work with a company called Ipsy. They make essentially like a monthly service bag, but it started by Michelle Phan, who is one of the biggest influencers.
She is the Chinese woman?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we've had her at the conference. She's been here at the conference, in Tampa.
That's awesome. Yeah, she is the founder of Ipsy, and she founded Generation Beauty, which is something I get to go to a lot. We get invited to go out there. It's usually in New York, Toronto, LA, San Francisco. And we go out.
So what happens is when one of these sponsors actually pick you up as as an influencer, because you have a sizable audience that follows your blog, your knowledge that you put out on is it daily or weekly? How do you put out your information?
So I put out content sort of when I get inspired to put out content.
Okay, very good.
But it's not, a lot of people end up saying, oh, I post Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or I post Monday, Sunday, whatever, and they don't stick to it. So I've never wanted to be one of those people. I've always just been like, if I can't post on a Sunday, then I'd rather just kind of create content all week, figure out what I want to do, what pieces I want to do. So if that means I write 7 days a week and I post 7 days a week, then it's that. Or if I do once a week, it's that. So it just depends.
So you wait for the influence, the inspiration of content, rather than just trying to force content to people. After a while, it becomes disingenuous. And it becomes stale because you're trying to put something that people are not really interested in.
Yeah.
So the passion of your influence is the excitement that people are following.
Yeah. I think that when you start to just post every day, I know that there's two sides to it. Either people say, if you post every single day, you're going to get so many more followers. It's going to bump your engagement because that's kind of everyone's thought, is like the more content, the more people see it. But really, once you hit a certain point and you're not really like, I mean, I only have 100,000 followers, which is a lot to some people.
Just only 100,000 followers. That's it. Just 100,000. Yes.
Just on my Instagram. So I tried to, since I've already gotten to that number, I want to now grow my followers based on making content I love, because there was a point when I had a very low amount of followers that I was kind of just like, wow, these brands want to work with me. Let me go in and just take all the sponsorships because they want to work with me. And it seems like at the beginning, it seems like such a weird concept to have people be like, we want to send you stuff, or we want to work with you and pay you. So I was kind of like, yeah, I'll just take them, not necessarily really being super excited about the content that I was supposed to make for them. And then that's when it turns into, am I forcing content on my followers that they don't want to see? And they know, they can tell, you'll see it in the numbers.
So now you have sponsors and they do events and conferences, and you become part of kind of what they want to present when they send you there. So let's say the company you mentioned earlier, what was that again? Ipsy. So when they send you to a conference, what do they expect from you when you get to their location for their conference?
So usually there's a lot of different things that they could expect. It just depends on what you're doing at the time. You can they have booths, for all the different vendors. And so sometimes we go and we work with a booth within Ipsy. So then, say Maybelline is there, or some big makeup company, MAC, whatever. I have connections with all those brands outside of Ipsy just because I have met them through going to those events and through just working in the industry. So sometimes they'll say, hey, why don't you come with us, do a meet and greet, or come take over our platforms and post this, because you're going to be there, so come post for us that you're at our booth. And then that kind of brings people to the event completely, or just to that specific booth.
So companies like Ipsy and others, they look for influencers like yourself that have a true following, people who actually watch what you're doing because you have a passion for the material and their products. And when they are promoting an event such as a conference, they're looking for people that are genuine in the love of their product, because that's going to bring a following to your event because you're going to be there.
Yeah.
So take us through how you would actually connect with one another. Do they actually just find you because you have a sizable audience, or did you track them down and explain to them how well you love their product and you've built an audience who are following because you have their products?
So there's two ways to go about it, and I've definitely done it in both ways, where they'll come to me and be like, I think Ipsy originally did come to me because they started a program where they were trying to recruit influencers to come, for compensation of tickets, or, get to go to all their events or be a speaker. That's always a thing too. But then there's also the other side of it, where if I wanted to work with a brand that probably hasn't heard of me because there's 10 million people on social media and influencers and whatever now, then I would just reach out to them, or I do have people who manage me, so they might reach out to them on my behalf and just try to make that connection, and then see where it goes from there.
Now, at what level of your audience, you're currently at 100,000 members that are following. At what point did you actually start receiving connections for some of these companies like Ipsy? Was it early on, let's say 100, 10,000, 20,000? Where did they feel that you are a right fit for their company?
I believe that some companies have a specific number of followers that they want. I believe Ipsy was 25,000 that they wanted. But for me personally, when I started, I think I started with 5,000 followers, and I just kept. At first, it's scary because you think, oh, what if they're going to be like, oh, we don't want to work with her. She's got 5,000 followers, and some people have, 5 million.
Well, the niche sector in this people are seeing viral as an incorrect way to look at numbers. I've done viral stuff where the material has gone around the world, every network, we even crashed the AOL server at one time. This was the early days of the internet. And yes, it was great. It was a flash in the pan situation, but we weren't ready to take advantage of anything that took place because of it. Now, at 5,000 niche followers, those are actually their clients. So the companies that are looking for influencers, they're not just looking for numbers. They're looking for the numbers directly who are their clients. Rather than, okay, you have 1 million followers, but has nothing to do with their client base.
Exactly.
Those are not not what they want. They want followers who are watching that product being utilized like you're using. So it started off at 5,000. Did they connect with you, or did you have people connect with them first?
So at that time I was very small and I really didn't know how to go about it, because there's no real like handbook on it unless you have a mentor.
This is the Wild West. The internet is the Wild West, and podcasting, video podcasting, blogging, all this stuff is new. So there is no, there is no School 101 class that says, oh, this is how it works. It's what you do, your personality, your passion. It's got to show, it's got to be presented in your presentation, in what you're doing, like it is for you. And people are finding you.
So when I was that small, I kind of just was, I almost took a chance because I didn't know. I didn't know, should I reach out to these companies? Should I just completely wait for them to reach out to me? And so what I ended up doing was just kind of writing up an email, just kind of like a general brief of what I did, even though I was still so new that I didn't have the stats I have now to be like, I've worked with hundreds, probably 200 companies in the last year or 2 years. I didn't have that. I had maybe 3 companies. So I just kind of pushed it as like, hey, this is what I do. And a lot of people responded. But at first, especially in makeup, because makeup is a whole different thing, because PR is such a big part of it, where they just want to send PR boxes. So they'll be like, we don't really want to compensate you, but we'll send you boxes. And at first you're like, free makeup? I love makeup. I want free makeup. I want free all this. And then you realize that if you want this as a career, that doesn't pay the bills. That doesn't do much.
You can't send that to the credit card company. Hey,
I have a free
boxes.
blush.
I got 4 boxes of blush. Can you just write that off? I've tried doing that. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It doesn't. So eventually I started realizing, okay, well, I'm just going to make as many brand connections as I can. Even if they're like, oh, we'll just send you whatever, or we'll send you one product, or we'll put you on a PR list, because that's a big thing in makeup, where we get a box every week practically from the brands, just whatever they're coming out with. It's new because they want us to talk about it, but it's not, that is there's no contract to it. There's just if you want to post about it, post about it. And I was like, that's great. I want that at the beginning just to make all the connections, because now I'm connected with brands like MAC and global companies and all that. I've worked with Walmart on their beauty stuff before.
Really?
I've worked in Walgreens before. I've worked with Armani. I've worked with a lot of those brands. But at first when I worked with them, I wasn't getting compensated for that. And I think I worked with Armani or YSL when I had 10,000 followers. And that was kind of unheard of, but it was more of just me kind of pushing myself out there, because they weren't coming looking for me. They weren't coming looking for a social media influencer with a micro influencer with a lot less of a following than what they usually work with.
When did that start? When did your following begin, where you started this blogging program?
So I started actually blogging when I was 15. As more of a hobby, because I think when I was 15, I'm only 22 now, but when I was 15, it really wasn't a huge thing, or it was kind of more of a really, really niche thing.
Well, at that time, most of the big companies really didn't get into the social media structure. They didn't think of it as real, as valuable, because, a company whether it's Walmart or Armani, whatever, their influence is too big, so they have to be in the big media
Yeah.
status. But now they have developed their own flavors when it comes to connecting with the right
Yeah.
influencers.
Yeah.
So instead of them going out there and pushing their product, they're finding you guys that have the following, plugging you in, and guess what? When they're doing stuff, like you go to, Fashion Week in New York.
Yeah.
Who brings you out to Fashion Week?
So I also work with a company called Style Hall. I believe they're more of like a YouTube-based network. They just kind of like work with a bunch of influencers and they help connect people. And they do a lot of stuff with Fashion Week. But I actually know I know him via social media, one of the designers for Fashion Week. So he invited me to his show. And we went out to Chelsea and we went to his show, and that was, I think, the same weekend as Gen Beauty. So I kind of like, it's all in New York City, so we kind of just hit I hit the finale show of Fashion Week.
Nice.
Because I think that was a Thursday and I had to be there for Friday, so I kind of hit the last shows. But when we do that, it's more of just they want us to post. Kind of Instagram stories is like a really big thing now, and it's something that a lot of brands realize that they can there's insights on it too, like quick insights, so they kind of realize they can take advantage of Snapchat, although Snapchat is sort of falling down a little, but they want to have influencers at their events just to be like, hey, they're going to give us a tag on Instagram and they're going to say, we're here, we're at this event, we're at this fashion show, whatever. It's, I'm not like a fashion buyer. So
how do they compensate you, like actual compensation, or do they send you a ticket for
the
your
fashion
travels?
shows?
Yeah, stuff like that.
So for the fashion shows and stuff like that, it's more of just like an invite. If you want to come, you can come. I don't usually make a specific trip for it. It's more of like I already have this going on, like I am there with Ipsy, so I just make an extra day or two out of it.
Oh, okay. So if a company is already paying you to go to one event, so you find other opportunities within that space that can expand your brand and connections by being at other places where now you're getting invited to another name brand activity.
And also, like for the beauty space, for Fashion Week, stuff like that, brands like Maybelline, again, people like that, they are the sponsors of the makeup for the fashion shows. So they want to have people backstage. They want to have influencers, showcasing what the makeup artists are doing and showing the trends also, because one of the biggest things, especially September in fashion and beauty, all that's when everything changes.
So you're going to be in Fashion Week again this
Probably,
September?
yeah.
Very good.
Except Gen Beauty is in October this year, so we're going to have to like work around that, but I'm already going to be up there, so I think I'm going to go to Fashion Week again.
Very good. So now, when it comes to like your audience, who are what is the largest block of people that following you at this point?
I think it's mainly like women between the ages of like, I have the statistics, I believe it's like 16 to like 30-ish, but there's still percentages of everyone else, but that's like sort of the main audience. It's mainly US, but also have a big following from Canada, a big following in the UK, and a big following in Germany and Brazil.
Really?
So,
and Brazil too?
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting because, Business Insights now on Instagram, when you have a business account, you can see like, I didn't know that I had a majority of my following in places like Brazil or places like that, where it's like, wow, who knew? Like that reaches that far. It's kind of crazy.
Now, when it comes to your travel, how often do you travel throughout the United States, and do you go abroad to some of the events that you're requested at?
So the farthest I've really gone just for events personally is Toronto. I go to Canada a lot. I have a lot of family in Canada anyways. But so we go to Toronto for Gen Beauty, usually mid-summer time. But I'm kind of, my content, like I said, is kind of beauty and adventure. I travel a lot. My family travels a lot. So I kind of took that because we were already taking pictures. So I realized, well, I don't have to do just makeup, because then it doesn't feel super personal, because it's just makeup, or it's just fashion. It's like, I want it to be like, oh no, it's me, it's my life. Like, this is everything I do. So I've incorporated the travel, and I just got back from being gone for a month. So I travel. Last year I was gone every single month except 1 month. I was traveling at some point for something, either work or
so
just to travel.
Yeah, for your travels, tell us about what do you do? Do you take pictures in different locations? Do you promote that location? Do you tell people that you're going to be there in advance?
Yes.
To meet up with you? What do you do? So let's say the next travel opportunity that's coming up. Give us an understanding of what do you prepare and what do you post that what you're going to do?
So it definitely depends on what we're doing, because I go on like month-long road trips. So I'm not really like, oh, I'm going to be here and here and here, because it's more of just like, we're just kind of going and I'm going to be gone for 30 days. It's not like I want to make it a super like businessy opportunity. But what we always do, and my little brother as well helps me with this a lot, we take pictures everywhere we go. So we kind of set up like, we're like, that's a cool location. We'll just be driving and we're like, wow, that's cool. Like we went to Glacier National Park, and we went like everywhere, but we went to Glacier, and we were just driving.
Did you see is the Old Faithful there, or is it?
That's Yellowstone.
That's
we were there
okay,
too as well. And so, we were just driving down the side of the road. We saw a waterfall. We're like, get out. Like, pull the car over. We're going to have a photo shoot. We take a ton of pictures. And, it's more of just generating content in that kind of case. Less of like, oh, like, come meet me here or whatever. It's more of just like, let's generate content. But we do work sometimes with hotels. My mom's a luxury travel agent as well. So, we went to Boston, to the Fairmont. And, we like go and promote the hotel, or the hotel will have like restaurants they want you to take pictures of or eat at, and they'll kind of sit down with you and give you like a guideline, like, hey, this is what we have going on here, could you talk about it? So we tag the hotels. And that's a big thing with like travel influencers as well, is that we get sent to like hotels that just want promotion.
Now, what do you recommend for people that are getting started in choosing what they want to do if they decide to do something in the open space? You got to kind of be an open book almost to everything you do.
Yeah.
Your life has to be an open book.
Yeah.
In order for people to feel the real connection with you. If you're just trying to pitch products and services, it doesn't build that following where people want to be your friend.
Yeah.
And they want to know what you're saying because it's the real you. So tell us about that, as for those that are trying to figure out, what is she talking about? She's traveling, she's doing all this stuff, she's doing beauty things, people are inviting her, she's developing a following, people want to be. Tell us what people should do to build a genuine audience.
For me, I think it's just find what you love, because at this point in the internet, there's influencers for everything. Some of the highest paid influencers are people who do video games. Like there's people across. You could be if you love to cook, do you love to travel, do you love beauty, fashion, whatever. There's a niche category for you. So I personally would say, find whatever that category is. Find what you love to do and what you. Makeup, to me, I started out as a professional makeup artist. I did a ton of client work and stuff when I was a teenager, and I wanted to take that into my blog. So I would say just find like, hey, this is what I love, and then just work on perfecting it, because there's a lot behind, having a blog, having social media, all that on a professional level. Invest in a really good camera. That's a huge thing. I had to buy a camera that I don't even want to talk about how much the price was. And I'm sure you have too. It's crazy.
I got
equipment.
Dozens of. I mean, the studio's got its own. The studio has its own production equipment. None of that stuff comes out of the studio.
Yeah.
Then I have the equipment that is this mobile unit, because we're here, downtown Tampa, 500 East Kennedy, overlooking downtown, and all this stuff is self-contained. If I was to move one item out of this piece of equipment, and use it for something else
Mhm.
and have forgotten it, guess what? I can't do any
Yeah.
work with it.
Exactly.
So, the mobile systems, and I have the live systems, this seminar system,
Yeah.
all these things are
There's a lot.
self-contained, and you got to buy replicated equipment because there's no such thing as this is the way it works. No such
Exactly.
thing. Got to figure out what you're working it for, what the purpose is, and buy the equipment that works right for you.
Exactly. So for me, you don't have to originally when you start out buy super expensive camera. That, comes later and all that. But I would say just, especially if you're in the beauty space, you have to invest in lights. Like I have a whole studio in my house. I had to invest in basically making we call it a beauty room. So it's essentially half a studio, like half a wall of, screen, and then I have a desk and then I have, so much equipment because you need tripods, you need self-timers, you need, especially if you're going to take pictures yourself, you need, a bunch of lighting, umbrella lights and ring lights and all that. And if you want to get into YouTube, that's, or podcasts, that's like a whole nother thing. There's just a lot of equipment that goes into it. So for me, I would just say, obviously start small. You can take pictures on your phone. You can take video on your phone, but realize if you want to build it up on a professional level, you do have to start to think about investing in that stuff. And if you put out the best quality content from the jump, then you're pretty good to go. Because I think most of us, especially on social media, go through phases where, our first pictures aren't so great, and they evolve.
They evolve. I mean, today's cell phones have really good technology in it.
Yeah.
But the phone itself is great, but you need technology that plugs to your phone and plugs to these kind of things.
Yeah.
Where microphones, because the farther this phone is away from you, the worse the audio gets.
Exactly.
And no one, people can watch bad video, but they cannot listen to bad audio.
No, definitely not.
So, is there a website that people can connect with you? What is your website?
It's www.dollhouse, spelled HAUS.com.
And so that's the website. Is there a phone number that you give people to connect with you, especially if those who are sponsors, or an email?
Definitely an email. You could email me at dollhousebeautyteam@gmail.com.
And is there anything else you want to tell the audience of what are you looking for? What do you want people to know about what you're doing and how to connect with you? Is there something that you're looking for?
I would just say, definitely follow me. But,
what's your Instagram?
It's at officialsavvyj with 2 V's. And, I try to help as many people as I can, especially being connected in networks like Ipsy. Like, there's a lot of younger kids or kids my age or whatever who are trying to get into this, and I try to help as many of them as I can. If that's, oh, hey, do you have this PR email? Could you help connect me to someone at this brand or this brand? I will definitely do that. Like, I love to help them.
Now you're roughly in your early 20s, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, do you see this as a full-time career that you're going to build into?
Yeah, I do. I think that it just evolves. I don't think Instagram is going to be around forever. I think, even...
Well, Instagram is probably like, what?
Yeah, I know. Instagram, and hopefully...
They're going to have to adapt, because there's always the next company that has the next something that people want. And some of the oldest have to really adapt and really redesign their platform.
Yeah.
Companies like Facebook is constantly adapting. Every time I turn around, there's
something new.
There's a new procedure that, why doesn't it not work? Why? Okay, now it's adjusted this way. They've added video. Now they've done the calling where you can instant message.
Yeah.
First the instant messenger. Now you can just call right out of your messenger.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes my phone rings in a weird way. It's like, it's through the messenger. So there's a lot of ways to connect, communicate, and develop these strategies. So, today's younger, audience, they're not looking for, are you thinking of doing a normal, 9-to-5 type job? Do you see that as part of your,
no.
your life in the future?
I don't. I think that I have a lot of different things I'm kind of involved in. So if social media went away, it wouldn't be the worst thing. I feel like I do think I have a lot of other ideas. I'm starting a new business.
What are you starting?
I'm starting an accessories company. We're going to start with that called Dolls Unit that launches sometime next month. And I'm really excited about that. But, you know, eventually I do want to have maybe my own makeup line and run that, because I think that's maybe a little more sustainable, because I do think at a certain point, when does social media kind of like play out? You know, I think everyone on social media has like a prime time. I don't think I've hit that yet. I think I'm going there. I think I'm trying to build to that, but they have like a pretty big span of like prime time, and then it kind of dies off. So what happens when it dies off?
So you're developing the next stage. So
yeah.
So you see your social media, you know, business, your platform, your connections. You're looking at that as a way to move into the real world product lines.
Yeah.
And having that become what your social media becomes, is the marketing and public relations of your product lines.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell us how, as you think that social media kind of will taper off at some point.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to necessarily taper off.
I mean, for you specifically.
For me personally, yeah, I do think that at some point, it's going to taper off.
Yeah, because everyone, the next, 18-year-old right now
is going to come in.
Is going to come in and develop that following and develop that new product, and the bigger companies are looking for the next, the next group of people that will start being the influencers.
Yeah.
So before you're influencing, hopefully it continues on for a long period of time. But you need to transition to something that can sustain itself in your influence.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that that's what kind of like thinking about making a product line or making multiple product lines, because I'm not someone who's just interested in makeup or just interested in fashion. I'm kind of interested in everything. Like I always want to know more.
Focus.
I know. I need to focus.
You need to focus. I mean, you have your passion in a certain area, so you're going to stay pretty much focused within a certain,
within the area,
within the same area, but it might be, just like, you may have a phone company, but you may have accessories, but they're still part of the same group of services.
Yeah, exactly. So I think right now just working on the accessories line and see where that goes, and then also in the future wanting to either transition into just making a makeup line or add that to the list of things that I do, have both.
do you get any local companies that want to be serviced as far as doing their their marketing? I was going to say politics, because they do political stuff, but servicing their public relations for local areas, or do you just focus on the national scale?
I usually focus on more of a national scale, I feel like, but I mean, I definitely want to do more local stuff. I think I haven't really looked at it yet. I haven't really been like, oh, I'm going to go like try to talk to these people or see if they need this or market for these people. It's been more of just like the people who come to me are usually more, broad.
The local service companies or companies that are within a certain demographics, I mean, you really have to have a really large base.
Yeah.
And at a local scale in order for other companies to actually want to hire you.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's on a national scale, you're seeing, even though you have really great numbers, you're at 100,000 followers at this time?
Instagram, and then my blog is 300,000.
So 300,000 on the blog. So that those are huge numbers, for what you're doing. Because you'd be surprised how I have associates that actually have just 500 people connected to them in their system, but their niche is so tight and such a large, in that space, that everyone is following that, even though it's only 500 people, but that 500 covers the whole United States in that specific niche. And they pretty much ship them around the world to do these influencing things that you're doing.
Yeah.
Even though it's just a very small number.
Yeah.
So, because the companies that work with small numbers, they know that influencer and that small group influences everyone. Like like jewelry,
Mhm.
diamonds. I mean, how many really out there? How many
Yeah.
certain things are out there? And if you have the passion and turn that
Mhm.
small group into those are the people that are following, it's sky's the limit.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there anything else that we've missed in our discussion?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, I just want to thank Savannah Jarrell from, the dollhousebeauty.com. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, dollhousebeauty.com. Connect with her. Check her out. She's doing some really good stuff in this space, and you should be following her and learning, and connect with her because she wants to help people who are actually wanting to get into this.
Yeah.
Because the more people you help, the more you're connecting.
Yeah, and I feel like also I didn't have anyone to like teach me. I had to teach myself. So now when I see people who are like, oh, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that, I'm like, well, I can help you. I had to learn that on my own. I kind of took all of the risks and did it on my own. And now I'm like, well, I would wish I had someone who had helped me.
You're so much better off in the sense because you've developed the technology of how to develop it.
Yeah.
Where at a time where it didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And what did exist worked for them.
Yeah.
So you can't just replicate someone else's techniques because it might not necessarily fit your passion, fit your ability to do it. And you'll end up just hitting the wall and then figuring out that this really doesn't work.
Yeah.
So you figured it out. You've developed your own technology of how you're implementing your strategies in your blog, in your following, how you connect with them. All of these pieces, it's your invention.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you.